Hey, this is Jeremy, and it's time to talk about Wicked. Okay, so you guys successfully bullied me into seeing Wicked last weekend. I wasn't going to see this in theaters because I didn't think it was for me, but y'all wouldn't shut up about Ariana Grande potentially winning Best Supporting Actress, so my curiosity got the best of me. But first, let's put this review into a little bit of context. Um, Obviously, I knew about Judy Garland's Dorothy. I knew the characters. I loved the iconic look of the Wicked Witch of the West as a child, but I didn't see the actual Wizard of Oz movie until I was in my 20s. As I've said before, I grew up before the internet, and my parents weren't cinephiles. So I never caught it on television. And the small video store in my hometown, they didn't carry oldies. They would put like new releases on the top shelf of the genre sections, and then newer releases would kind of push them down. And then once they got to the floor, they would just get rid of them, disappear. So sometimes I managed to get them to place like special orders for me when I was obsessed with classics like Sunset Boulevard or All About Eve that I would read about in books or magazines. But I never asked for The Wizard of Oz for some reason. I saw Judy's daughter Liza in Cabaret way before I saw Judy herself in Wizard of Oz. I think I even saw Judy in A Star Is Born before I saw Wizard. And I had a big Judy at Carnegie Hall phase in my late teens before I even saw Wizard as well. So I finally saw it when I bought the 70th anniversary DVD when it came out in 2009, I think. So that's when I saw it for the first time. And since then, I've only maybe seen it like 3 times. Does that make me a bad homosexual? Maybe. Does that make me a bad cinephile? Probably. So I appreciate the how everything about it is kind of iconic and the impact that it had, but ultimately it's not really my jam. I've seen Gone with the Wind, which came out the same year in 1939, way more times than Wizard, and now that's a movie. So needless to say, I had not seen Wicked the musical. I had no idea what the story was about really, other than the two witches being in it. And I low-key like couldn't remember a lot of the details from The Wizard of Oz either. I believe I'd heard like the chorus to Defying Gravity somewhere before, but probably not the song in its entirety. So cut to last Sunday. First off, I enjoyed it. It was a spectacle. That being said, I was kind of shocked by the story. I mean, the whole bullying plotline makes sense to me given that, she's green, whatever, racism, and that kids are terrible. What I'm talking about is really more like the whole talking animals bit. Just the fact that all this shit got started because Elphaba was an animal rights activist. And it's also kind of unclear why the wizard wants to get rid of the talking animals. Like, what did they do wrong? Is it just because they were smarter than him? It's kind of revealed at one point that like the pig or a bear ran the university before. Also, I don't remember any talking animals in The Wizard of Oz. I mean, other except the lion, but he was a man turned into a lion. So, and obviously that makes sense if I guess they eliminated all of them in Wicked. But the shock of seeing a bear deliver Elphaba at the beginning of the movie, I was like, what the fuck is going on here? The whole animal thing with the goat being the teacher and being fired and the animals meeting in secret and all that stuff felt kind of like off. It felt like tonally it was like a different movie. I'm not sure if that's just like the plot point itself or if it was like mishandled in the movie, or maybe if like the rest of the movie had like a darker tone, like a bit more sinister, or maybe that's all in part 2. I don't know. I like the idea of Glinda and Elphaba growing up together and then becoming rivals later. But what Glinda does at the end, the choice that she makes, it seems totally, I don't want to say acceptable, but like given the circumstances of what was happening, just like if Elphaba hates her so much and wants to like try to kill her later, that seems like a stretch. But again, I don't know anything. I don't know if she tries to kill Glinda in part 2 but Glinda certainly wasn't sad when Elphaba got killed at the beginning of this movie, so I don't know. Trying to make sense of Wicked part 1 and then The Wizard of Oz without knowing what happens in the middle is kind of a fool's errand, so who knows. And also, who the hell is Fierro? Like, they introduce him as some kind of prince, but then he just randomly enrolls at Shiz University in the middle of a term. And how old are all these people supposed to be? Also, Shiz University? Really? Plot aside, if you just let yourself be taken by the film and follow these characters into whatever they're doing, I think it works and it's very enjoyable. Even though this film is like 3 hours long, the pacing is kind of perfect. Like, I really didn't feel the length. I would even say that the ending, with all like the emotional stakes and stuff, it kind of felt a bit rushed. Like, I didn't feel like it came out of nowhere, but still it felt like, okay, like, we're really doing this. Like, you're leaving. I think ultimately on paper, John Chu was a good choice to direct this movie. But in practice, I feel like he manages to make everything work, but the direction could have been something really, really special, but it just kind of works. And like, obviously, like everyone's been saying online, I think the look of the film is kind of dull, especially given that like The Wizard of Oz practically like invented Technicolor. I know it didn't invent Technicolor, but you know what I mean. But it didn't really bother me as much as I thought it would. In the inside scenes, it's okay. It's just kind of the outside stuff, particularly the train station, and the scene at the beginning when Cynthia is kind of running through the field. Those were the only ones where the color was like, ugh. But in terms of the production design, given that they had to kind of work with the look of The Wizard of Oz, the first film, and create other locations that felt like the fit within that world, I think they did a really good job. Although I didn't understand the layout of Shiz University, like how can Ariana get from her balcony to the courtyard in like 30 seconds? I remember when the teaser trailer dropped and everything looked CGI and terrible. I was glad to see that in the movie it's all more realistic, given that like these were actually mostly real sets. But again, I think that's like the color correction of the movie. Like, it makes real things look cheap and fake. And the songs, honestly, I don't think I'm ever gonna listen to this soundtrack. I get that like Popular is kind of catchy, and Defying Gravity obviously has its moments, but to me it feels so tied to the action of the film. I wouldn't listen to this out of context. I don't know. And even Defying Gravity, like at the end when they kind of cut it up, mixed with all the action, it kind of diminishes the song's power a little bit. Even though it kind of extends it and then it becomes this whole sequence. But I guess for fans of the song, it must feel a bit strange. All this being said, I'm not really a fan of musicals. Like, the only musical soundtracks that I can listen to out of context are probably like Grease, Hedwig and the Angry Inch, maybe Chicago, the Rocky Horror Picture Show. That's pretty much it. And maybe that Vaginoplasty song from Emilia Perez could potentially integrate my public transit playlist, but it hasn't yet. Overall, I think the special effects worked for me. The talking animals were okay. Maybe the monkeys at the end looked a bit rushed. We were a long way from the realism of the latest Planet of the Apes series. Let's talk performances. Ariana Grande is indeed great when they're at the university. The opening of the movie, when she's like a woman after Elphaba's death, I was kind of like, oof. Like, I don't know if I bought her in that scene, but the rest of the movie was fine for me. Like, I don't know how much time has passed between the university days and then Elphaba's death. So I'm not sure how old she's actually supposed to be, but like when she was a university student, that worked for me. Her voice is cute. She's obviously singing very differently than she does in like her pop career. A few of her pop songs I enjoy, but mostly I'm not really like a fan of hers. I'm not really naturally drawn to like airy voices like hers and Mariah Carey, for example. This works in the movie, and obviously she can hit the like same range as Kristen Chenoweth, who originated the role on Broadway. Cynthia Erivo, I enjoyed as well. She played it, I think, a bit more stoic than maybe I would have preferred. Like, she was hurt by the bullying, but she also seemed like she had her shit together and that it went over her head in a way. And the kind of like evil-ish turn at the end didn't register as like that menacing. But again, I don't know like what she gets up to in part two, so I don't know how evil she's supposed to be. And obviously great voice, like whenever she's singing, like it's amazing. Jonathan Bailey, I had never seen in anything. Obviously I knew of him from like pop culture, but I wasn't familiar with his work. I loved his performance, great voice, fun dancing, 10 out of 10. We love to see a gay winning. Michelle Yeoh I found serviceable, but there's so much more that could have been done performance-wise with that character. She was pretty one note to me. Even at the end, I didn't like really see the escalation. And let's not even talk about her singing, please. I know online some people are complaining about Jeff Goldblum, but I really enjoyed him in this. I'm not sure where his character goes in part 2, but I liked what I saw. Now let's talk Oscars. Given the success of the film, I'm pretty sure it'll end up in Best Picture. I don't think Chu will make it in Best Director. If they want to do that, they might wait till next year for part 2. Production design, I think, is assured. Cinematography, given the backlash, I think we can forget about that. Performance-wise, people have really jumped on the Ariana Grande train. I was ready to accept that she'd be nominated before seeing the film, but after seeing it, she's good, but I'm not sure she's necessarily Oscar nomination worthy. But I will accept if she is. But then if she wins, like, Jesus. But I guess I would be more okay with her winning than Zoe Saldana for Emilia Perez. Cynthia could potentially get into Best Actress, but the field is so crowded this year. Maybe she misses. It's hard to say at this point. But personally, I think there are a lot of other performances I enjoyed more than hers this year. I don't think she would make my top 5 at the moment. Jonathan Bailey for Best Supporting Actor, I would love to see. That would be a fun nomination. No one seems to be talking about that, so I don't know. He could potentially make it at the Golden Globes. We'll see what happens. I do think Wicked will do great at the Golden Globes. The Oscars is kind of another story, but given the success, I think it's kind of inevitable. So all things considered, I am excited for part 2. I'm interested to see where the story goes and how they potentially integrate Dorothy at the end. I don't know if that's too much to ask, given that she was kind of in the beginning of this movie anyway. I hear that the book is much darker, so I am excited to read the book now. I do think I'll wait till I see part 2 of the movie before reading the book. But given that that's a year away, I don't know. Maybe I'll read the book first. Let me know if I missed something in my observations. Obviously, I'm a newbie, objective person to this whole Wicked universe, so there's a lot of stuff that I don't know. And I interpreted stuff that I saw based on my memories from the first movie. So I gave Wicked 3 stars on Letterboxd. See you next time.
If there are no further questions, I'm gonna go.